Okay, welcome, Kurt. It's my pleasure to talk to you today. And before we go any further, how are you today?
I am doing well. And once again, thank you so much for allowing me to be with you this Saturday
Oh,
afternoon.
well, my pleasure. I was looking forward to it, and I'm so glad that you granted me this opportunity.
Yes.
Yeah, so well, for those who are watching the video, my name is Orisha Brown, and I am the owner and founder of Good Hope Tutoring Services. And we had the pleasure of having a nice chat with Kurt Russell, who is the 2022 National Teacher of the Year. And he has, I mean, his resume is so impressive. I'm not even going to go into it all, but we will attach a link to his LinkedIn so that you can kind of follow him on LinkedIn. And what's interesting about Kurt is his educational philosophy is very similar to mine, which is student centered, with an emphasis on equity and representation. And that's exactly the way I feel and that's my educational philosophy also. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get into it. So, Kurt, what are some of the challenges you face in the classroom and how have you overcome them?
Well, once again, I just want to say it's an honor to be with you this afternoon. And that's a tough question, right? So, some of the challenges that I face, especially if I could say post COVID, has been like student retention, attendance issues as well, and just don't want to say a lack of learning, but some students are just a little bit behind because of the pandemic. And so someone always told me it's not what students don't know, it's what students know. And so I really tried to focus in on that. And what do I try to do in the classroom is just to make sure that my classroom is a safe place for students, that they feel welcome, that will try to answer the attendance issue, and just to try to make sure that I provide the best educational opportunity for my students. And so it's really not rocket science with me. It's really not this, I'm bottling this great solution to these issues that many teachers are facing. What I try to do is just to show love, and I try to provide my students with, as I said earlier, the best educational opportunity possible.
Wow, that's wonderful. I totally agree. When you said that it's about love, that's that element that's important. When students know that you care about them,
Yes.
they want to do better. It's like a motivator for them. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Yeah,
So
it is. And it also allows students to want to come to school. So if you feel appreciated, if you feel valued and loved, then they will be more willing to come to class.
that's true. Okay, so now you have a great method there. How can teachers throughout the United States replicate your success in the classroom?
Well, I always say that you have to be yourself. And so I try not to replicate anyone else. I try to have a strong foundation in terms of my purpose and my why. And that's what I stand upon. And I will suggest that to all teachers is that you have to find your why, you have to find your passion, and you have to be yourself. And students recognize when you are authentic or not. And students recognize if you are being your genuine self or are you trying to copy someone else. And I think it's important that each teacher, because each teacher, first of all, is an individual, and each teacher brings their own expertise and their own value to the classroom. And I always say the following, that you are enough. So what you bring to the classroom is enough, and you do not have to be anyone else but your authentic self.
Yes, okay. So we have the classroom covered, and we
Yes.
have a protective environment full of love and guidance and education. Now, how can parents at home ensure that their children receive the best education possible, regardless of the school they attend?
I'm so glad you mentioned parents, because parents are stakeholders in education.
Yeah.
And sometimes we forget that there's more than teachers and administrators that are stakeholders. It's a community, and parents play a major role in that, because parents are the first teachers of their children. And
Yes.
so, what parents have to do, what I suggest, is that they stay on top of their kids' learning, that they come to parent-teacher conferences, but more importantly, that they come to school board meetings. School board meetings is where policies are being made, where curriculums are being developed. And so it's always good for parents to come to school board meetings to hear what's going on and to also share some of their accomplishments and some of their frustrations, because we are all in this together.
Okay. And how would you deal with a parent that is kind of unreasonable and kind of like combative, not like physically combative, but like you have some parents that um, maybe their emotional intelligence is not the greatest. How would you deal with that type of parent?
I think the first thing is that the parents that you are mentioning
Mhm.
probably are parents who never heard anything that was positive about their child.
Mhm.
And it's always important that we speak highly of all of our children. Even if a child is struggling, we always have to find the good in each and every one of our children. And I think that's a starting point. So to invite those parents, those reluctant parents, into a educational conversation, is that we need to make sure that we speak highly of their children, that we offer those particular parents a invitation to do the work along with us, and not just pointing fingers or not just telling parents what they need to do, but allow us as a collaborative whole to come up with some ideas to work together.
Okay. Yes, collaboration is very important.
Yes.
That's a very I guess understated thing in education. Even when it comes to students working collaboratively together, parents are stakeholders, teachers are stakeholders. It's really a whole like village that will be responsible in the end for a student's success. So
Yes, because we do not work in silos, right? I mean,
yes,
education is not isolated,
yes,
and we all need to come together to make sure that we give students what they need and what they deserve.
right. That is so true. All right. Now, throughout your remarkable career, you have undoubtedly forged meaningful partnerships with a lot of educational organizations. Now, Good Hope Tutoring Services, my company, is dedicated to nurturing a holistic growth of our students. So, as an individual with an abundance of teaching experience, I'm eager to hear your perspective on Good Hope as a tutoring company. And if you were to recommend us to someone, how would you inspire them with your portrayal of our services?
Well, number one, what you are doing is absolutely phenomenal, because you are providing children, as I said earlier, what they deserve. And they deserve a quality education. And that's what Good Hope is doing, is providing our children with a quality education, meeting kids where they are at. A lot of times, children who struggle in the classroom need extra support. And that's what you are doing. And so I would advertise Good Hope in the position where they are providing those necessary skills for young people to be successful and to really take off in terms of the educational journey. No, we can't do this alone as teachers. No, there are some students that need extra attention, that needs extra help. And that is what Good Hope is providing, that extra that sometimes the classroom cannot provide.
Okay, yes, I thank you.
Mhm.
Now, that leads me to the next question. What are the main differences between teaching and tutoring, in your opinion, and how do they complement each other?
If
I
I
think
could
you
start with the
answered that already, kind of. So,
Yeah, but if I could start with that end part, how do we complement one another? Because all of us believe, mentors and teachers, in equality education, right? So that's the collaborative part. That's where we are merged together in our focus and in our purpose, where students come first. And so that's the merging. Um, Maybe the small difference, if I could say small, is that teachers provide those in classroom instruction, and I think mentors take upon that and maybe add in other resources to help. And so, as a teacher, as a classroom instructor, it is my job, is my responsibility, is to follow state guidelines to provide a curriculum that's holistic. And from a mentoring standpoint, is to take what is being learned in the classroom and maybe provide extra resources to help students to be more successful.
Okay. So I noticed you put in the word mentoring in place of tutoring, and
Yes,
that's great because at Good Hope, our tutors are mentors
yes,
also. Because we don't just like work with the students on academics, we help develop their social emotional learning, their emotional intelligence. We are concerned about them as people. We want to know how they're doing. We're concerned about them as a whole and not just like helping them raise their grades. So
yes.
really mentoring and tutoring can really be used interchangeably in this case. So
Yes, and I never, and I apologize because I never used the word tutoring because I think, when we use the word tutoring, it has a connotation that is just singular focus, right? And
yes,
a mentor, as you just mentioned, is not just focused upon grades. We need that social emotional learning that is missing within our classroom. So it's bigger than just grades. And I always reflect upon my teaching career. I never had a tutor. I always had mentors that developed me into a teacher of today.
wow. So, okay, so now how exactly do you, as a social studies teacher, contribute to addressing the glaring disparities in education for students? And what do you think about the way some states and some areas are treating history and social studies in the United States?
First of all, I'm saddened by some areas in our country that don't seem to understand the value of a cultural responsive education where all students feel a sense of belonging. And so, what I do in my classroom is only one thing, and that is I try to humanize each and every one of my students. And I humanize my students by several ways. Number one, I allow them to see themselves in the curriculum. And so if I'm teaching about the Revolutionary War, then I include the stories of women. If I'm studying about the Civil War, I include the story of African Americans. And I try to do that in each and every lesson that I provide. And so I humanize students by that. I also humanize my students by allowing them to share their stories and their narratives within the classroom. And so I think it's important for us as educators, as mentors, as stakeholders, is to view our young people, our young learners as humans and not just this commodity that we call students, that they are humans and that they have a story and that they deserve to see themselves in the classroom, in our lessons.
Okay, wow, that's beautiful. And speaking of that, what do you feel about, do you think sometimes I feel that social studies and history is like not treated equitably to like math, science, and English. What do you think about that? I mean,
I
what are
to-
your thoughts on that?
Yes, I totally agree with you. I never heard of a region or a state that is dismantling the studying of math and of science, because you hear the narrative that math and science is factual. Well, to me, history is a lot of factual information as well. That sexism happened in this country and it continues to happen. Racism occurred in this country and it continues to occur. Transphobia and all the above oppressions that's happening. And so we need to make sure that in order for our students to be a part of this democratic society that we call the United States of America, how can they be civic minded? How can they be democratically minded if they don't know the true stories? And so we need to make sure that we treat our social science courses the same as we treat our natural sciences and our mathematics courses as well.
Okay. Now, I saw that you have created a few courses or some
Yes.
curricula. Can you expand and tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, my responsibility as a teacher is to humanize our students, and I humanize them by courses I help develop. Courses such as African American history, which is a survey from 1619, well, really starting back in Africa up until the present day. I teach a course called Race, Gender, and Oppression, where we deal with topics such as women's rights, economic oppression, immigrationism, the gay rights movement, and also a course called Black Music in the African Diaspora, where we study music as a social change as well. And so courses I help develop in order to give students more of a variety, but also the great thing about these courses is the engagement part. You know, students, first of all, love to talk, and they love to talk about current issues, things that affect them. And that's why I try to create these courses so they could relate and they could grow from these experiences.
All right. I tell you, Good Hope wants to adopt or use some of these courses for some of our online and virtual classes so that we can provide this type of information and learning to students all over the United States or even the world, because you'd be surprised, a lot of students don't know the truth about history.
Yes.
And a lot of people in other countries don't know the truth about the history of the United States.
So true.
Yes, yes. Okay, now as last question, as technology continues to play a larger role in education, and I'm not talking about AI because that's a whole nother animal.
Yeah.
It is undeniable that online teaching and tutoring slash mentoring have become indispensable in both classroom settings and tutoring and mentoring. As an experienced teacher, I am interested to hear your perspective on the shift towards virtual platforms for instruction. Additionally, I would appreciate your insights on the effectiveness of online tutoring slash mentoring as a complement to traditional classroom teaching.
Yes. If I could focus on that end part, the effectiveness is so evident where number one, the virtual learning, the virtual mentoring slash tutoring could take place at any time, right? So it doesn't have to take place within school hours from that 8 to 3 o'clock. So it gives students a variety of opportunities and time to meet. And then number two, in regards to the effectiveness of it, is that these children today are so digitally minded and so technological advanced where I did not experience that as a student, right? We didn't have computers and
Yes,
all these and no tech in the tech world, but these students grew up on that.
yes,
And so that's how they learn. And they learn by touching, by feeling, by interacting on screens. And so that is so important as well. And even in my experience during COVID and post COVID, there has been a lot of instruction that has been taking place virtually from things such as Zoom, things such as even Google Classroom, where I have used more Google Classroom assignments and videoing than ever before. And so students, first of all, they like that interaction, they like that interface. And so it's a great opportunity for students to, grow based upon their own experience.
okay. So, and I said that was the last question, but this is kind of a sort of a question, but I'm going to just kind of relay something that I've experienced with parents. I have some parents that want to sign up for tutoring, but they insist on having it in person. Now, I think what happened was during the pandemic, a lot of teachers were thrown into the technological arena and made to teach the whole curriculum online when they were not used to it or trained to do so. So that left a bad taste in a lot of the parents' minds about technology. But at Good Hope, we've been mastering the virtual arena for tutoring and mentoring since before the pandemic, actually. We started to envision the need for online tutoring that was very effective and where we could utilize whiteboards and other virtual platforms and web 2.0 tools and now web 3.0 tools to help students in their learning and meet them where they are, since this generation especially, and as the generations continue, they're more and more into technology. So I feel that like parents should open their minds to that, because number one, virtual tutoring is less expensive, and number two, you don't have to leave your house, really. I mean, for your student or your child to attend tutoring or mentoring. And you don't have to worry about COVID or your child if they're under the weather or if the tutor is sick. I think it's an excellent thing. So what would you tell a parent that was insisting that, oh, I don't like technology, or I don't want my student to do stuff through technology or get tutoring online?
I just echo everything that you just mentioned. And if I could just add a small piece as well, is that when you mention the comfort of your home,
Yeah.
also what's important is that you know for a fact as a parent that your child is receiving additional help, right? That you could hover over your child, you could make sure that your child is logged on, and you don't have to worry about your child going to the library and skipping out on that in-person tutoring. At the comfort of their own home, you could oversee what is happening.
Yeah. All right, great. Well, thank you so much, Kurt. Again, everyone, this is Kurt Russell. He is the 2022 National Teacher of the Year. And I'm so proud of him, and I'm so glad that you granted us this opportunity to talk. Is there anything else you would like to say before we close?
Just want to say once again, thank you so much, and thank you to you and Good Hope for the hard work you are doing. It does take a village. It really does. And it's more than just classroom instructors. It's more than just administrators. It's those individuals like you and your company that is providing additional help and resources to our children. So kudos to you. I just want to say thank you so much for everything that you are doing to really benefit our children.
Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure, my mission, and my ministry to help children all over the world. And I just love it. It's so fulfilling. And as developing a child's mind and helping them out at this critical stage in their life it's just nothing like it. Yes. So, all right then. Well, thank you so much, and you take care.
Thank you.